And you wouldn't like that, would you?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kennel Podcast with Foxhound. I'd like to introduce you guys today, my brother from another mother, Rob Farr. Rob is a Muay Thai crew as well as a Red Sash and an assistant crew in Kru Rob up in Burlington, Vermont. He has a school called the Green Mountain Martial Arts Collective with my original instructor in Pakiti Tershakali, Pat Gagnon, who's also known as Green Mountain Dog. Welcome to the show, Rob. How's it going, man?
Thank you. Hey, I'm having a great day. I'm having a great day. Wow. About as great as you can, right?
Yeah, right. It's pretty hot up there still, huh?
Well, I mean, not compared to where the fuck you are, but
that's true. It's 111 in Fresno.
I mean, when the snowman melts around here, that's pretty fucking warm as far as we're concerned. But
yeah, it's true. It's true. The sap starts running like crazy.
Yeah,
can't even keep up with the syrup manufacturing right now. But anyway, why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, man?
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Rob. I've competed at I competed in a couple of national competitions, and in Muay Thai, I fell in love with teaching the art of Muay Thai and all of its great, wonderful benefits of murder science. And it wasn't short thereafter that probably about maybe 2 or 3 years into my teaching experience, Pat came along and started teaching at the same gym. And he started doing a Kali class, and I was like, oh, hey, fuck yeah, I'll try that out. So I started doing Kali. I started getting really into Kali, and then he brought in the Kru Rob class, and that was it. That was it. I was like, I'm all in. Go, baby, go.
For those people who maybe don't know what Kru Rob is and its relationship to Muay Thai, you want to maybe give just a quick...
Sure, yeah. So Kru Rob is the ancient war art that eventually led to the ring sport that we know as Muay Thai. So it encompasses a greater variety of techniques. It encompasses weapons of all shapes and sizes, but it still maintains that same beautiful artistry to it, you know, like the wide crews, some of the positions and movements that you use when you fight. To me, I find those things very, very important as well. You know, it is incredibly effective. I think everybody would agree. Yeah. But so Pat introduced me to that. So then I fell in love with Kru Rob and the Muay Thai combination and what I could give what I could give back. So I was teaching at a particular school, and a group of us came to the decision that it was time to move on. I don't feel like there were any hurt feelings or anything. It was just, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. Mm-hmm. So it was my time to go. And we decided to start up the Green Mountain Martial Arts Collaborative, which is, it's kind of a weird concept for a martial arts gym. But at the same time, it's kind of like the vision that both me and Pat had for the way that it should work. Mm-hmm. To go into that a little bit, we wanted to bring, because as you know, because I met you through Pat as well, through some of the Dog Brothers events, and also the Dog Brothers.
Yeah, when he started
out of cancer.
When he started teaching up there in Vermont was after he had left Boston for good. So I had met Pat in Quincy, Mass. And then when he abandoned the Boston lifestyle to get back up into the woods, he started teaching with you guys up there. But right away, I never really stopped, especially at the beginning before I found another instructor that was giving me what I needed at home. I was still traveling up there. So yeah, we would have met at your old school pretty early on.
Yeah, we did. We got along pretty well at first. I still to this day want to smash your face in, but that's just because I love you, man.
It's all right. That's a lot of people feel that way.
That's part of how it goes, right?
A lot of people feel that way.
Me too. But so we kind of, so you and I met through the Dog Brothers and the competition thing, and then I kept competing in all the different arts, and then I started adding jujitsu to the mix because of the Dog Brothers thing, because I was super confident, and I was like, and then somebody beats your ass with jujitsu, and then you go,
Yep, I had that moment myself at the hands of our mutual friend Aaron.
Yep. Oh God, that boy's still going hard. And then Pat and I started this new school that we kind of wanted to. We were kind of looking around at a lot of the gym lifestyles, and we were noticing that we were kind of thinking as to like, how like some gyms, I'm not saying every gym out there, right? But there are definitely some gyms out there where it seems like everybody's drinking the punch. You know what I mean? Like
the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, they're drinking the Kool-Aid. They're on like the bandwagon and stuff like that. And I wanted to start a place where that could never be a thing. I don't like that aspect of martial arts.
Okay.
So what, and I don't like treating different martial arts as like unequal. Like when you go to school, right? When you went to high school, right? There was the same amount of time and the same amount of respect and attention that you gave to one art or to one class that you gave to another. They were all like 90 minutes in length, and you came to now where we get into
in theory, because if you saw my high school transcripts, you would realize that was not the case.
So I said to myself, I really like the idea of the old style of martial arts academy, where if you're a mixed martial artist, you are mixing martial arts, right? That's how mixed martial arts came around, right? With the inception of Bruce Lee and his phenomenal knowledge and his ability to branch out and basically like forego all of the rules that came before him, right? The tradition that came before him. He was like, all right, I see what you're saying. However, there's 4 guys over there that are unconscious because I decided to break the rules. So what do you do now? And that is kind of like, what led to the whole MMA thing. So I said, well, why is it that all of these arts are kind of like, they end up in these little categories aside from one another, which isn't always a bad thing.
Like grappling and striking and weapons is over here.
Exactly.
Combatives is down there. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And that's why I love Beat the Crap Out of Cancer so much. It's because, you're a boxer. Okay. You think you can beat a Muay Thai fighter? Whatever rules you want, we'll agree upon it. And we'll have a contest and see who comes out on top. I think that is a phenomenal way to test martial arts, right? Like, remember when we had the HEMA guys there for some reason? They had the giant broadswords, and all of us were sitting there with our fucking Kali swords going, that's a big sword.
That's a big sword.
That's a big fucking sword.
Yeah.
We better figure some shit out.
Yeah.
Get the guy with the quickest feet quickly.
Yeah.
But so I love that aspect of it. So when we started this new place, we wanted to call the place a collaborative. So that way in the future, right, not just what arts we have now, but we want to add more arts. We want to add a continued number of different martial arts, and not maintain a pressure of like, hey, you're a boxer, you're doing boxing stuff or this and that. We want to make it so that way people gravitate easily from one style to another. So one of the ways that we kind of got away from doing that is that we realized that a lot of it has to do with that sort of how do I put this? That cost of entry. Like, not a lot of people are willing to pay the cost of entry to be a boxer, right? Not a lot of people are willing to get kicked in the legs or fall down in front of people because they're worried about their form, or those types of things. So we thought to ourselves, well, how do we circumvent that? That's been in martial arts since the dawn of time, right? You have to get comfortable falling down.
I think that weeds out a lot of douchebags.
Yeah, and it does. It does
Weeds
weed
out a
lot.
lot of douchebags.
It does. And I think that,
But I think you're kind of getting at it probably also weeds out a few people that maybe if they were given a little bit of a different path might have found a love for the rest of their life.
right, because not everybody can be born in spectacular amounts of trauma like you and I that forces us to learn to be combative, right? Like, let's be honest here, right? Like most of the people that I know that were like professional fighters or something like that, they got a screw loose somewhere. You don't just jump in the ring because you got a healthy brain kicking around up there, you know?
That's true. That's
So
true.
it is what it is. But I don't think that martial arts is something that should be specific to only the people that have those trauma responses that force them, or have coddled a group together that are like the group of warriors and nobody else is allowed unless we say so. I don't like that. I don't like that aspect of martial arts. I understand that it
What do you
has
mean? I
to
love that part of martial arts.
be
That's almost the entire thing for me.
right.
Just kidding.
So
Continue.
but that is competition, not the practice of the arts that led to it. So I think
I see
being
what you're
part of
saying.
a competitive thing is a different aspect than learning the martial art, and they should be treated differently. Like when you start treating your whole class like everybody in here is a competitor, I personally don't think that that's a good way to do it. I think your competitors should be separate from the people learning the art. Definitely the competitors should be part of the class of learning the art, because one day you want them to teach other people. But I don't think that intermingling just to that competitive nature to like everybody else that just wants to learn the art just in case one day, right? Because let's be honest, the competitive aspect of things is not always the just in case.
Right. Oh, it's not even a little bit.
We beat the shit out of each other
Yeah.
because it's fun. Like,
yeah, I like
and
hitting
that's
people,
not a healthy
man.
thing, right? So
I disagree. It's better to hit people in the way that we hit people rather than just hitting people that
no question.
like are out on the street.
No question. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you though, and I kind of see what you're saying. Especially when it comes to learning the art. Learning the art shouldn't be competitive, and the idea of making an environment that's more welcoming to people and more inclusive to people that are maybe less aggressive or less, even people that aren't necessarily looking for it for the maybe one day or whatever. I mean, I've brought stick fighting to people and been like, hey, do you like Star Wars? Like,
right. Exactly.
How do you feel about lightsabers? Do you wish you could kind of do that? Like,
100%.
only I'll teach you to do it where you're actually hitting the person and not just
do you remember Jason
not
Bourne?
just playing stick tips with somebody. See, that's another aspect of things that you can bring to people is like, well, then there's the improvised aspect or whatever. But I really like and appreciate that idea. I haven't really picked any of your guys' brains about this so far since you had kind of made the announcement of what you were doing. So it's very interesting to me to hear that and put forward in that way. It very much makes sense with you and Pat for sure.
Because I think for us, like owning a gym was sort of like a necessary evil, I guess. Maybe not an evil, but like a necessary hurdle. It wasn't what our motivation is. Our motivation is teaching students. There is no greater high to me than somebody ripping a rear kick. Like I want to.
You've never tried crack.
You're right.
Just kidding.
Nothing pleases me more than seeing somebody who's like that you would not expect to rip a perfect rear kick to just fucking haul off. Like the yoga instructor started doing Muay Thai again. She took a long hiatus because she had like some really bad health issues. So she didn't want to come back because she was like, listen, I had these health issues. I used to be a competitor and I can't go back to that way of life. And I don't want to show my face. And I was like, I'm going to set it up so that way that person doesn't have to. And B, if they do, I want to make sure that there's a place where they know that they're just as valuable as a competitor. And so one of the ways that we did that is we live stream all of our classes. And
Okay.
so all of our class structure is live streamed and is available to those for drop-in fees and anything like that.
Mhm.
We also have a video archive of all of our basic techniques right now. We're going to develop that more. So all of the basics for our style of Muay Thai and Krabi Krabong, Kali, even our yoga stuff is on there. So
That's awesome.
our yoga
That's
is
really awesome.
our yoga is specifically tailored for combat athletes as well.
Mhm.
So
Cool.
it's for people that smash their bodies on a regular basis,
Nice.
which is important, right? You smash it together, you got to pull it back apart.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big proponent of yoga. I did quite a bit of hot yoga back at home at Cape Ann Power Yoga while I was there. And actually, I subscribed to Diamond Dallas Page's DDPY.
I've never given that a try.
I have a yearly subscription, man. It's worth every
There you
penny.
go.
If you can stand DDP, I understand he's not for everybody, but if he tickles you even a little bit, it's worth it. He's got a couple of different programs. He's got like an on-demand one that's the one that I do. It's a little bit less expensive than his app, but yeah, yoga has been something I had come to already without Diamond Dallas Page, but as you are saying, for people that smash their bodies apart, there's almost nobody out there that wrecks their body worse than professional wrestlers,
Right.
because of the nature of what they're doing. Even though it's performance, it is an athletic performance in a way. Those are stunt men that have to do their stunts live without any camera tricks, multiple nights every week. If you talk to anybody that's involved in pro wrestling, and maybe someday I will get somebody on here, I've got a couple connections in that world, but those guys wrecked themselves, and DDP was somebody that was very interested in not dying of a fucking painkiller overdose, or the way that a lot of those guys do, or going out badly. He clearly didn't suffer as much brain trauma as some of the other guys have. It's when you hear him talk and describe his methods and stuff, but not to turn this into a DDPY commercial.
No, you're good.
This is more of a yoga thing in general. For somebody like me, who I came to yoga just because I was feeling fat and stiff at the end of a winter one time, and I was single, and it was a place where there were girls, but I got the benefits of it very quickly, and the other stuff. The thought of like, oh, I'm single and this is a place where there's girls, went out of my head so fast that I was like, I'm getting the best workout of my life. And it's doing things that I know are positive. If you're not into the woo, of it, hey, guess what? You're not cleansing shit. You're not decalcifying your pineal gland. None of that is real. What's real is you're stretching, you're doing dynamic resistance, you're doing these things that are excellent for your body. I've never been in as good a shape. It made me crave better food. It's just
so good for you.
I couldn't possibly speak higher of yoga. It's really exciting to me to hear that you guys have that, because that's the kind of thing that
we always make sure that our classes are structured so that way there's yoga before the full day of martial arts. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. That's something, I almost intentionally didn't pick either of your brains when I saw you and Pat both starting to mention this stuff, because I wanted, you to be able to talk about it on here, and for me to hear about it kind of for the first time. I sort of knew, but it's very cool, man.
But hear about the details.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I really like the idea of doing the remote classes. I have been teaching quite a few remote classes myself, and there's aspects of that I like and aspects of it that I don't, but I would be much happier teaching an in-person class that was being broadcast remotely.
Right. And that's kind of the way that we've been doing it. It's sort of set up in the corner. We do the demonstration. The students sort of move off to one side, so that way they can see the demonstration and also the people that are on the camera. So it's kind of like a through shot, and it works out really well.
That's neat.
We haven't had too many hiccups with it yet. We're doing it during the soft opening for now. We're still ramping it up. We're still building out those libraries as time goes on, but
that's awesome.
It's going well. It's going really well, actually.
That's great.
Almost too well. Like, it makes me a little worried. It's almost going a little too well.
Nothing's gone wrong yet. I'm getting nervous.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, I can feel that, man. I can feel that. I something has to be going wrong for me to be comfortable. There needs to be some sort of disaster, right?
Yeah,
or some sort of chaos
on fire.
Yeah, right.
But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we've also structured it out so that way when we do bring on new instructors, I wanted to make sure that everybody gets a little bit of money, right? And
That's
part
cool,
of
yeah.
that is bringing, it. Whenever we bring in students, we're not charging them different for like, okay, well, you do this and this and this, so you just do jujitsu, so you get one price. You just do Muay Thai, so you get a different price, and you're just interested in yoga, so you get it. We were like, no, you are a student of the academy,
school. Yeah,
the way that it used to be.
That's the best. That's how my old school back in Boston, Collective Jiu-Jitsu, always was. Yep.
And then, based on that, the instructors get paid per class, so it works out really well on that end. Yeah, man, it's really heartening because we're getting a lot of messages and genuinely in our website, and there are a lot of people that are kind of seeing the message that we have on our website, and they're saying, this seems like a place that's not intimidating. This seems like a place that I could go, I could train. It seems like, they look at the space and they're like, that's a place where you learn martial arts. And I think that's important, right? Because let's not forget that, cage fighting is a mix of multiple martial arts. Like, and if you don't have people that don't dilute those arts and learn the art, then what you're left is an amalgamation of things, which is not bad, but you can't lose what you came from.
Right.
If you lose what you came, it's like destroying the Library of Alexandria. Like, who knows what the fuck was in there, right?
It's like Ronda Rousey trying to box. Head movement. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. That's not head movement, Ronda. Having your head snapping back like this isn't head movement.
But it's moving.
It's moving. It's moving. That's a punching down at this point.
Well, that's low hanging fruit. Yeah.
That is low hanging fruit.
We should let that one go.
We'll leave Ronda alone. Leave Ronda alone. Yeah, we will do that. No, man, I really like the idea of the style of gym that you guys are putting together, because I've been to martial arts gyms across the United States, into Canada, and for different things. And when you walk into a place that like looks like an abandoned airport hangar, smells like a jock strap, the bags are all old and beat, and you just got a guy standing in the corner in rolled up tie shorts, wrenching into the bag, and like that brings out something in some of us. But I've walked into those places with people who immediately go,
yeah, this isn't for me.
Like this isn't it for me. But then when you go to a place, actually one of the best atmosphere martial arts schools I've been in, all of a sudden the name is escaping me. It's where Maelstrom, Loki's guys up in Vancouver train now.
Ancient Fire.
There we go. Ancient Fire. Man, when you walk into Ancient Fire Dojo, if you don't feel like you have been transported to a different time and place, and that everything, we were going to do great violence there, but when you walked into the building, everything from the way it smelled, to the slate on the floor, to the reverence that people had for each aspect of just the lobby.
Yes.
And then the actual training space itself. That's something that, you could feel a certain something there. I mean, if I'm grinding
to say quoi. You know,
Yes.
it's like it's that little thing that separates the gym from the martial arts school, right? And that's what we were kind of searching for when we started our place. And we did genuinely kind of look at Loki's place. We were like, you know, this is kind of what we're going for here. This is that's got
Oh,
that
yeah.
that's got that feel that this is an academy for it's an academy for warriors. Like
That'll be the
academy
gold
for
standard to
warriors.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be the gold standard to me until I find something more impressive. But that place
Oh,
was ancient,
absolutely.
ancient fire. If you're ever in Vancouver, British Columbia, not Washington, and you have the opportunity to go to Ancient Fire, whether it's for a jiu-jitsu class or to take a weapons class with Kru Loki or Brett or Lazy Dog, any of those guys, man, that place is amazing. You know, that's not to say that some of the absolute just gnarliest places I've ever been haven't also had a feeling, you know, when you go to play, particularly for Muay Thai.
Yes,
or,
yes. Sometimes you walk into those gnarly gyms and you're like, way,
like,
and you can tell it's got the feel to it, right? You walk in and it's kind of like a vibration in the air. Sometimes you walk in and you feel oppressed, right? Like you walk in and then you feel like I'm not welcome here. But when you walk into a gym and that gym has like that passivity of everybody's too busy to notice who just walked in the fucking door, or they're too fucking busy learning their shit to worry about the new guy, that's the place I want to be. I don't want to be at a place that actually has time to start fucking divvying people up. If you've got time to do that, you've got time to do another fucking 100 rear kicks, so you better get on it. I get so pissed off about that kind of shit. I'm like, you shouldn't be treating people differently. Okay, they walk in and they got jujitsu to do. Okay, this time they got Muay Thai to do. Who the fuck cares? We're all human beings learning martial arts, right? So don't treat each other differently. It doesn't make any sense to me. So that's why, like Pat and I, obviously, I'm the non-level headed out of the two of us, obviously.
You're a little high strung compared
I'm
to
a little
Pat.
high strung sometimes. Okay, it's because I do IT for my day job. You know, it's a little. I get all antsy in the pantsy, but yeah.
I mean, being fair, Bill Cosby's date is high strung compared to Pat. So, I mean, if we're gonna put it, anybody looks a little high energy compared to cool as a cucumber. I used to think he wore the green shirts because of Green Mountain, and I'm pretty sure it's because it's like cool as a cucumber. I've seen very few things. I've managed to make him yell at me before.
Is it cool as a cucumber, or is he Pickle Rick?
He could be. He could be Pickle Pat.
Pickle Pat.
He's been pickle.
Tee it off.
Now I hope he doesn't hear this, because I am also physically afraid of him.
Yeah. He's a big
I'm
boy.
aware. I'm aware. Eventually, he'd get tired of chasing me if I was just running.
Yeah.
But that would assume he didn't manage to corner me at some point.
He's not a bad runner either. That's
no, I
scary.
know.
Usually a guy that's that big, you're like, all right, at least I can outrun him. But with Pat, you're like, it's kind of like outrunning a grizzly bear. It's gonna get you. It's gonna get you.
Yeah. We call him Green Mountain Dog, and it's like the mountain that runs. He just he's quick. He's a quick guy. But you know that
don't put the emphasis on the dog, put the emphasis on the mountain in that sentence.
These are the kind of jokes that the people that aren't involved in Dog Brothers are like, what the fuck are these guys talking about?
Yeah, they're gonna be like, what?
I at least started this whole podcast journey off with Crafty Dog and an introduction as to what was going on in that regard. Yeah, so that's good.
Anyway, I watched that. He looks like he's doing good, man.
One.
He's got a good little space down there.
It's a cool school.
Yeah,
it's a cool school. I'm looking forward to getting down there. I'm not going to make it for their camp this year, but probably for the next one for sure. It's the first time I've really felt compelled to go to the East Coast camp for some reason. But anyway, moving on. You've mentioned beat the crap out of cancer a couple of times, which isn't something that's been mentioned on my show at all. So
Sure.
since you brought it up, this might be a cool time to talk about that, because it's a big deal. And within our little world, it's our kind of way to give back to any part of the community. Everybody in their life knows somebody who's been affected by cancer. For myself, my mom had breast cancer. Lost family. My grandmother died of brain cancer. So, you know, everyone has some sort of connection to it. And coming from the Dog Brothers experience, it was actually like my first year in the Dog Brothers that Tyler and Renee sort of founded Beat the Crap Out of Cancer.
Yeah.
And for it to have grown to the point it was. So basically, within the Dog Brothers organization, you know, we get together, we have these full contact stick fights, but it's sort of just
it's
for
us. More, but Beat the Crap Out of Cancer is a little bit different. It's open to anybody that's willing to sort of sign a waiver and come in with their martial art. And it's a friendly sparring event where nobody goes harder or goes in with any sort of disagreements or anything like that. It's just a place for you to test whatever martial art that you practice for any spectator that wants to watch. And that can be a little intimidating at first, I'm sure, for some martial artists out there. But at Beat the Crap Out of Cancer, I have learned, without a doubt, some of the most valuable life lessons I've learned. Like, because in Dog Brothers, it's smash and fucking just destruction. But in Beat the Crap Out of Cancer, there's just enough little wiggle room for you to start getting creative. You know what I mean? You know, just kind of like how you do a hard roll in jiu-jitsu, right? Like the hard roll, you're just relying on the phrase book, but it's the creative rolls that sort of increase the volume of that phrase book so you can use it later. And I feel like Beat the Crap Out of Cancer is a lot like that, where you're increasing that go-to phrase book instead of, you know, worrying about, you know, survival and shit like that. You know, it is what it is. Like,
there's an
just
aspect.
Real.
Yeah,
you know,
there's an aspect to that.
So we've seen people that do historical European martial arts. There's been people like me that do Krabi and Kali, and there's been Muay Thai fights, boxing fights. There's been jiu-jitsu fights. There's been we've done MMA fights. We've done it all there, and we've been lucky enough to sort of Pat's been overseeing that. I help out here and there, but not. I mean, Pat holds most of the reins on that, as far as I know.
Right. So you guys hold one of those in Burlington, Vermont every year, but the original one was in Toronto. So there's always a Toronto. There's usually a Chicago, LA, a Pacific Northwest, and then there's typically one in England as well.
There's usually one in England, and then
occasionally there's a mainland Europe, and I believe there was one year where there was Japan. The Shinkali guys maybe ran one in Japan.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that. I don't know if that was
I don't know beyond. Yeah, I don't keep. I barely keep track of what's going on in my life. But this was the 9th year, or no, I'm sorry. So this past year was the 9th year of Beat the Crap Out of Cancer, and because of COVID, we handled it in different ways. So this is. I didn't really give the full. We do a fundraiser essentially every year where those who are going to fight in each event, in each place, they raise some money, and we raise tens of thousands of dollars every year. I mean, like the group as a total. I think the Pacific Northwest guys, I think tend to win out, and I think they are usually the highest
for money raising.
The highest fundraisers. Yeah, because there's a couple of real go-getting motherfuckers up there, really. The rest of us are kind of lazy and are like, I just want to fight. But no, we do a good job.
I try.
But, no, we all like I said, for every single person involved, we all know somebody who's been affected by cancer. And you know, it's a big deal, aside from my kind of joking about it. This year was a funny one, though, because we didn't have the in-person events everywhere. So what we did was we kind of put it out there to people to raise money anyway, and then to sort of do their own thing, whether it was have a small group, 3 or 4 guys that sort of did some rotating fights, or maybe you did a solo demonstration or something. I know Sherlin's a good example. She did like a solo demonstration. In LA, we kind of just got together and fought.
That doesn't surprise me.
And then recorded it. But then we put all these recordings onto a Google Drive, and we chose to release them all at once so that people could watch the whole thing and could do some donations. So we still managed to get a Beat the Crap Out of Cancer in there this year, despite COVID, and hopefully in 2021 now we're going to be. We just had our sort of tribal, sort of closed gathering in May, and it looks as if we're going to be having a proper gathering in September. So
that's great.
We're doing that in Chicago this year. This is the first year that it's going to be on the road, so we'll see how that goes. But
interesting. Yeah, keep me in the loop, man.
It's gonna be good times.
Yeah.
September 26th, Chicago, Illinois. We're doing the damn thing. So if you think you could stick fight, please feel free to reach out. I'll help you get registered. And then I'll beat you like a fucking drum with both hands. Just kidding. Kind of. Anyway, man. So that's just sort of Beat the Crap Out of Cancer. It's something just because Robin mentioned it a couple of times, I wanted to sort of let people know.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about Beat the Crap Out of Cancer, I didn't tell you this because I never really got around to it. But we remember the last time that we did it in person, and my mom and dad were there.
Yes.
Right. Yep. And my mom and dad are cool, but my mom, the week before that, was diagnosed with breast cancer. So week before that, and then she came and sat and watched the Beat the Crap Out of Cancer fight, and yelled at me because I was smashing somebody's head in with my helmet. But I never told you that because I didn't want anybody to think it was weird or like treat her any different, because my mom fucking hates that. My mom is like she's made out of something else. She's a weird woman. She's already gone through all her radiation and chemo. She did the whole thing during the COVID crisis.
Yep.
And so she's in remission now, and
that's great.
Now she's starting to do her own, like she's going out of her way to do her own benefits now because she saw how valuable they are to Beat the Crap. And not everybody can give back by just fucking being a psychopath and beating the shit out of people, but everybody should do something, right? Like we live in a day and age where it doesn't make sense that cancer exists, but yet we've walked on the fucking moon. Like we've got something that kills people every fucking day, but we're going to prioritize things that just, let's look into the cosmos. How about that guy? Like that guy over there is dying of something. Can we do something about that? Like I understand wanting to know more about the universe, and that tells us like how to heal people in some back-assward way. But really, the idea that there's just a cell on your body that goes awry and we're just kind of like, fill them full of poison and it'll work itself out.
Yeah.
Carve it out of them. Fill them full of formaldehyde. Something will go.
Yeah.
Like that's, I can't understand a world like that. So I encourage people to give back in their own way, like any way that they can, because cancer, things like cancers and Alzheimer's disease, like I just can't understand why they exist in our world. I can't. It affects so many people, but we just had something like, I just don't get it. We just had a coronavirus and the entire world was affected. The entire world is affected by people with Alzheimer's disease. Are we doing anything about that? No. That's just bizarre to me. I'm not going to get into like anything tinfoil hat, but it's just fucking bizarre. It's just a bizarre way to exist. But
I feel you on that one, man. It's a hell of a thing. It sounds like your mom's doing better, and I'm also lucky that when my mom had breast cancer, she was able to fully beat it. But when we were going to Mass General, I had a lucky situation with my mom where she had a lucky, I don't know. My mom's got a lot of friends, so there were every single day of her radiation, someone was like scheduled to bring her to radiation. But I did it, a couple of days a week. I would go with her, and you really, when you go to a place like Mass General, that is a huge hospital that deals with a lot of cancer patients, and you're one of the people that's going to live, because there's a lot of them that aren't. Like, you get a real, sense of kind of your own just precarious mortality. Like, why was I lucky enough that caught it at this time? It's for my mom's case, she caught it very early. She was able to have surgery and then do radiation. She didn't even have to do chemo, and even radiation was bad enough, but going through it at Mass General they have multiple radiation machines. It's all in the basement of, their big campus and all this stuff. And it's just very like descending down into this almost dungeon. Like, it's obviously well lit and everything, but when you're going down the cinder block stairs,
when you're underground,
down, when you're, exactly.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's the easiest place to put the radiation machines or whatever. I don't know. But, you have the same machine, say you're there for 8 weeks or whatever. You have the same machine the entire time. So does everyone else that uses that machine. So you see the same people every day. And then like Sue isn't there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, at Mass General, when you finish your radiation treatment, they have a bell, and you go and you can ring the bell. Yeah. And when people aren't there anymore, but they didn't ring the bell, you know what happened. And, that.
So like that thing that's supposed to be that gift of freedom, kind of like
not for everybody.
It does the exact same thing in silence in a negative fashion that it does in positive.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it in that way, but yeah, it does the same thing in silence. It signifies that person is no longer, there. And it was a tough thing. It was tough to go through. And when it was over, my mom, kind of in the same way that you're saying your mom wants to do more fundraisers, my mom she's very big on connecting with women over whatever thing is going on. So, working towards helping people who are also survivors and stuff like that is very much in her wheelhouse. And immediately after that, she came to beat the crap out of cancer. She happened to get to see me get the living crap hammered out of me by Aaron. Yeah, that wasn't great.
That's right.
Yeah, like
I remember
mouthful
that.
of blood. Like, oh yeah. My mom beats cancer in time to watch her son get the shit beat out of him.
I remember that. Oh my God. Yeah,
on the positive side, that fucked up beating I took encouraged me to begin jujitsu.
Yeah.
So I was like,
we were just talking.
Maybe I should learn. Yeah, it was funny that you brought it up.
Everybody has that one where they like get fucking hergurked, and then they're like, "Oh, something's wrong here.
Something's wrong." Oh, in my case, it was that he just wouldn't let me up. He didn't even try and submit me.
Baby.
Yeah, old school jujitsu. Yeah, that dirty bastard just didn't let me stand up. He just kept beating the shit out of me. And every time I tried to get up, he was like, no. You're coming back down here. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Aaron's the type of guy where you don't, like every once in a while, I get a submission on him now, and I can't tell if he's just being nice or not. Like, he's being very subtle about it. But
everybody gets caught.
Everybody gets caught, but, like, sometimes I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, he let me have that one. He let me have that one. Yeah. You're always gonna, but like brown belt, black belt, you're always gonna wonder that. Like, especially as
did he let me have that one? Yeah, did he let me have that one?
You're always gonna ask that, and then you're like, I'm gonna have to try it again to find out, aren't I?
Especially with that fucking shaved Sasquatch that he is. Like, you get grabbed by him and you think it's a primate of some kind that's got a hold of you. It's not good. I mean, it is a primate, and we're primates, but I mean, like
backward.
One of the.
Yeah, it's going forward.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, that's why I taught him that sort of like Muay Thai style. Did I ever tell you the story of Aaron's first Muay Thai fight?
No.
Oh, no. God. So,
just so everyone knows, this guy is an accomplished wrestler and a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. Aaron's got to be, we're all getting old, so he's got to be close to 30 now. But I would say,
He's getting there, yeah.
yeah, I mean, he's a physical specimen. I mean, so some of us have better genetics than others, and he's got the genetics of someone that's been running
he's
around
definitely
barefoot in the woods of Vermont for
exactly.
generations,
If you
throwing
looked at
logs
him, you'd be
around.
like, you'd be like, he's 1/4 Swedish, 1/4 Black Hawk helicopter, and like, but yeah, he's a real chore to deal with in jiu-jitsu, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But he's a silver medal at IBJJF. He's got multiple gold medals. He's a real animal on the mats. And
you're talking about his first day or his first
right.
Muay Thai fight.
His first Muay Thai fight, they were doing, because he was at UVM for a while for school. And that's how he got associated with the gym. He started out in the judo club.
Right. Yeah,
so then they started training, and then he got into, he was doing jiu-jitsu with judo. And then they wanted to do an event at the gym where they hosted their own Muay Thai fights. So the only way that we could have accomplished this, right, was to get the clubs involved. So in order to do that, one of the club members had to fight. So they went, you got 3 weeks to get that boy ready. I went,
oh.
So
Aaron, let me tell you about this thing called the clinch.
That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. I was like, we're just going to modify that judo you've been working on, and you're going to learn the knee, and I got time for nothing else. You'd be surprised. He almost won that fight. If there was another 30 seconds of that fight, he would have won. No question. And that guy was that guy had many fights under his belt. So.
Yeah. And I mean, Aaron's big. So somebody at his size who knows how to strike, like, is dangerous, even if you're not really trying to kill the other guy. Like, I mean,
as soon as he figured out what it was like to clinch a big guy, you could see in the second round the lights go off in his head, and the other guy, like, and that's the thing about the Muay Thai clinch, right? If you know it, right, it's just like any fight where you're bringing somebody into deep water, but it's not like you're coasting down with them. If you have a higher level of knowledge of somebody in the clinch, they're going to get tired faster, frustrated, because it's a full body seizing up. Even at the little slightest motion when you're not comfortable, all of those core muscles tighten up, and then you can't breathe. You can't breathe because you need all of those muscles to start.
Having someone that's never had someone hang on their neck, like someone that's never had someone grab the back of your head and just pulling you like this, even just the effort of picking your head up, like you said, all your breathing starts to get fucked. If you're not used to clinching and having that sort of stress put on your system, and someone who's got a little skill starts doing it to you, you are going to be one tired bastard real fast. It's not going to go well.
So that's why I was like, you're going to go forward. You're going to clinch this fuck. You're going to block his punches this way, and then you're just going to knee him until he dies. And that's it. That's it. That's all we've got time for, and that's all you're going to need. If I give you anything else that's going to confuse you, we ain't got time for confusion. And like the fucking second round, they separated them out of the clinch, and he goes, oh, and I was like, go get him,
grab him again.
I saw that, he was like, holy fuck. And then Aaron grabbed onto him again, and his fucking eyes were like, please God, get me out of this. And I was like, keep going, you bastard. Keep going, you got him. So that's why I was like, he had another 30 seconds in that, he would have had that fight. No question.
Oh, that's funny, man. So it was like a smoker kind of thing, and you had to have somebody from that club fight.
It was a smoker amateur fight event.
Nice.
We called it, what did we call it? I don't remember what it was called, but it doesn't matter anymore. It's gone. So
it's gone. It is done.
Yeah, it's gone. It's done. But there was a lot of That kid. After that, he was a couple years after that, he started being like, all right, so I've seen this thing called Muay Thai. What is this? What is this style of Muay Thai, and how do I do it? And I was like, I'm glad you came to the right place. Robbie liked the clinch.
Right.
So I started.
So just before you start talking about specifically Muay Thai, kind of tell people about how there's different attitudes that a Muay Thai fighter can take.
Yeah, and that's a really good way of saying it too, because saying it's all right. So there are different sort of like attitudes of ring fighting. It would be the equivalent of having strengths in certain areas of your kickboxing game. So there are people that have strength with punches, Muay Thai. There are people that have strength with kicks. There are people that have strengths with knees and standing grappling and that sort of thing. So when your focus is victory, like you focus on what you're good at, because Muay Thai is so broad, and there are so many strikes that can be used, that if you were to become a master of every strike, right, or in every tactic, the person that drills the one tactic is going to beat you because they're just better at using that one tactic. So that's
it's like the old fear the man who practices one kick 10,000 times versus the man who practices 10,000 kicks one time.
Right, exactly. And I think that it's also kind of sort of serendipitous, because your body type dictates that victory modality. So you start with an expectation, and then you start seeing what your body is good at, and it starts being reinforced by your instructor. And then over time, you start gaining bodily knowledge to find out where you need to be as a Muay Thai fighter. And I think that that's probably the best way to do it. So like, you start out with your basics, your coach kind of keeps an eye on you, and you're like, okay, this guy does this, this, and this, right? And then over time, your interest and your strengths get reinforced, and then that becomes your style.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And I think that's true in Krabi Krabong too, right? Because there's fucking a million weapons in Krabi Krabong. There's a Y crew for every single weapon. And you just end up picking up a weapon one day and you go, this is the one.
Yeah.
And for me, that was spear. Like as soon as I picked up a spear, I was like, this is the weapon.
It's weird. It's almost like those things have been used for a really long fucking time.
Spear and shield? What?
Strange. Strange.
They're only on every battlefield ever.
Pretty much. Yeah. If I got to do for somebody, I'm going to take a long stick and make a point on it.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Ajarn? Thank you. Have you ever seen Ajarn Steve's spear?
I have not.
He's got a spearhead that is like, the whole thing is a molded K-bar that fits around the top of the spear. It's fucking beautiful.
That's awesome.
He busted that out one day, and I was like, I have to have a better spear. So then I made one. Well, I didn't make one. Actually, our buddy that makes the My Socks, he actually helped put the spear together. I can show you.
That's really awesome. Cool.
I
gotta take a leak real quick. So this is the perfect time.
Perfect. Let's do that.
Perfect. Yeah.
Not talking the podcast, but the Kings. I love you. Go. Good. stir.
There we go.
Right.
All right. Cool. snack time.
So we're still recording, yeah?
Yeah. I'm just gonna have Nick chop that part that we were out.
Yeah, so. No big. I just wanted to make sure. Just in case I start rambling. Yeah. Oh, right, spear. Gotcha.
You forgot the spear.
I forgot the spear. It's like right here, so it's not that big a deal. But I love this fucking thing, man.
Oh yeah.
It's actually double-ended.
Hell yeah.
Because in Krabi, you use the back side of the weapon. And in also, so like staff, spear, a lot of those other things, use the back side of the weapon as well. And in the photos of like the traditional Hoxots that we have, there's like sometimes a butt cap, and sometimes like I heard there's sometimes a crescent blade from Azure and Steve and stuff. So I was like, well, I want the thing to be balanced. So if I want it balanced, I'll just put 2 fucking spear ends on it, right? Because then my form for my backhand, because forehand and backhand's got to be exactly the same, so it's got 2 spearheads on it.
Oh shit! Yeah, it does. Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's really cool.
Check it out.
Yeah.
So it's also got an engraving of a lotus flower.
Yep.
And on the opposite side, it's got a
tiger.
Leopard.
Oh, snow leopard. All right. Hell yeah. That's
so,
really cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
What's the total length on that?
It's
4 feet.
Hoxtot, so it's like it's right around 4.
It's a short spear. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a short spear. So it's a little bit longer than a traditional Hoxtot. Like a traditional would be like right about here.
Yeah.
So at least in the photos I've seen, and our training, the ones that we use for training are a little bit longer, but so if you ended like the secondary spear, that'd probably be about perfect. But I like my spears to be a little bit longer. Just because it's more comfortable in my hand.
You're a little taller than the average Thai, I would say.
Yeah, that might be part of it, but
that's part of why I scale up my. I mean, also if you can hit somebody from farther away, it's better. But that's why I scale up my sticks to 31s. As I like.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm taller than Filipinos generally. There's a couple. I mean, there's a few I know. Mike Penafel, Omega Dogs. At least it's got to be my height, if not taller than me. But I don't know many. I've met very few Filipinos taller than me. So I assumed if they're fighting with 28-inch sticks and they're like 5'3", that maybe I could go to the 31s. And it lets you hit from a little farther away. I mean, there's other aspects to it as well.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I use a longer stick. You know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, those are the Krabi sticks. So Krabi sticks are interesting compared to Kali sticks. So if we have people here that are Kali or Eskrima, Arnis, whatever practitioners that are used to a certain length of stick, a Krabong stick is typically longer because it represents the Da sword. Yeah. Well, a lot of the time it's longer, thicker. They go together. Not all the time.
Not all the time.
Not all the time. But I suppose if you could only choose one, thicker maybe girth. Anyway, but a Krabi stick, while being longer because of where you hold it to represent the Da sword, it actually you only really have as much striking surface, right? Like I would say, based on where you hold a 36, you're only getting out of it what I get with a 31.
It's got a much longer handle, and
but that all has to do with the swords that you're representing. The Thai style versus the Filipino style, when you're using the stick, from how it was brought to me, when you're using the stick, it only represents the sword. You're not a stick fighter necessarily,
Right.
you know. So
No,
when you
you're
strike with the
using a
da,
stick,
you cut with it, even if it's a stick versus
there's no like, oh, this is
impact
a stick in my hand.
weapon.
But
I try to describe to people that if in Dog Brothers, when we're having a stick fight, we're having a fight and we have sticks, versus when we both have a sword, we're sword sparring.
yes,
We're not having a fight anymore.
When we both bust out metal blades, that's a lot different than when we're standing there with sticks.
Right. We don't have a fight anymore. We have a sword sparring match. Right. Because it just, if you've got any fucking brain in your head at all and you've ever handled a weapon, you understand that each weapon will have different aspects. Even if it's something like as simple as there's a good example, just because there's two things right here next to me that are very similar. Two knives that are super similar. This is a Fred Perrin Bowie knife, and this is a Tops Brothers of Bushcraft Fieldcraft knife, or field, whatever the fuck the name of it. I think it's called a Fieldcraft, something like that. They're essentially the same length or whatever. These things feel so different. This is a fighting weapon, and this is a tool.
That's a pointed tool.
Completely in, you know, even though they're quote unquote both a knife, they're both, you know, this one's a little longer, but you know, you have two knives here. There's attributes and aspects to them. I mean, I could fight with this for sure. I mean, it's sturdy as shit. Like, you wouldn't want to have somebody come at you like Jason with this thing. But at the same time, it's not idealized for that. Yeah, exactly. It's not idealized for that, and so there's aspects and attributes to it that would be more ideal to that versus to fighting with this, you know, Fred Perrin Bowie.
I would say part of it too is that in Krabi, we're very quick to put a live blade in somebody's hand as well. So they don't always get focused on the idea of how to hold a stick. So as soon as we put that da in their hand, they're like, oh, this is what this is meant for. And this is why I put my thumb on the blade or not put my thumb on the blade, and this is why that strike exists in this way. And it becomes immediately obvious, right? And especially when you're mixing strikes in, right? Because in Krabi, you're not just using the blades, you're using every part of your body. So you have to know how to do that while blades are moving around. Like if I go to throw my rear kick and I've got a sword in my hand and I don't do it right, I'm losing a fucking leg. Or if I'm not losing a leg, I'm certainly losing the fight. Which means I'm losing my life.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's a funny thing for Kali guys. Most Filipino martial arts doesn't include any kicks higher than the groin. There's some dick kickery and some knee stomping, but that's about it. Sometimes a stomp on the feet. But Krabi Krabang is really where you learn how to put your kicks into a weapons fight. And you know, there's guys that'll tell you common knowledge is you never throw a kick above the waist when there's, you know, weapons involved, but the Thais would beg to fucking differ. They're all the kicks are in there, and when you learn how to set them up, I usually do it in like, you know, one of three ways. There's you know, I kick, if my rear leg is here, I kick and stick same time this way like a scissors. I throw a kick behind my strike with the same side like that, or I kick and swing at the same time from the same leg, right? Works good for me. I learned it from fairly unsophisticated, broken down way to like, this is how to get your kicks into these fights. Once you get into Krabi Krabang, you begin to see even more from there. You know,
and you're not wrong about that at all.
Well, I'm definitely fucking right. They
well,
work good. I have years of evidence on video of those things working like that. But it goes beyond that, you know.
I think as you learn the art of kicking while you're using your weapons, and there is an art to it. It's very specific, and you have to do it a certain way. or either your opponent's weapon gets you or your own weapon gets you, right?
Yeah.
And that also changes depending on what weapon you're using, right? So like that's kind of why I push that when you pick up a weapon and you're like, this is my weapon.
Mhm.
This is something inside you goes, this. You know what I mean? That's when you know you've got to figure out all the ins and outs of how to move, strike, use everything in your body with this in your hand, because that is the true extension of you. When you pick it up and inside you, you say this, that's when you know. That's when you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not like a mystical juju guy, right? But I will say that everybody knows that feeling. Everybody knows that feeling of picking up something that's like got something internal going on with them.
Oh, yeah.
Like you pick it up and you're like, this is it. And for me, that was spirit. So that's when I started incorporating that into like beat the crap out of cancer and stuff like that.
There are several accounts of people that I've read who kind of describe the feeling of picking up a certain weapon, and one of them that one weapon that's been described in that way is the smatchet. Do you know what a smatchet is? It's
No,
like it was a World War II era tool. It's a knife with a leaf blade that I want to say Sykes and Fairbairn designed it. So it's like it's made for ending the lives of people. And they said that if you saw the look on a soldier's face when he picked one up, you could see him being transported back to like antiquity. He knew what to do with it immediately. He didn't need to be told. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of when you described how you felt about the spear. I was like, yeah, man, that's you know, I've picked up. I think it's also the difference between picking up a properly designed weapon versus picking up a tool. The difference between picking up a real sword and picking up a machete.
Yes, when you pick up a machete and then you pick up a fucking thing, it changes your worldview very quickly.
Right. I have a Filipino sword, a nitak, and then I have almost the same size, very similar machete made by Columbia River. It's one of their like it's like a chance in hell or something like this. Very similar, and actually beyond like a normal machete doesn't have much in the like blade shape. It's sort of just a stamped out piece of metal that they like put a bevel on for an edge. These Columbia River ones, they do like a little more, there's a little more geometry to the actual blade itself. But even those two things, when you pick them up, because I got the Columbia River one so that I could kind of do some sort of double. I don't like, I feel comfortable with double stick. Yeah. Because those are two sticks.
Yes.
I'm not going to fucking cut my arm open flailing around two sticks. But if I were to need to be in a live blade confrontation, I wouldn't want two equal length long blades to be doing this kind of stuff with, but I wanted two live blades to train with. And so the closest thing I could get, weight, size, whatever, is this Columbia River. It's very similar. They don't feel like the same thing at all.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
one is alive. One feels like a live thing. The hilt is wood. The steel is real tempered steel. Not that, I mean, you have to heat treat and whatever, but it's just it feels alive, whereas it feels like this is a product. Here's your product. And it would work. It would work. If I had to fucking sword fight somebody today, I could use that machete, but I would rather have my sword. And it's something that people that don't handle particularly steel weapons. I don't know. I've never handled a gun that didn't feel like a gun, but
so one of the things that's kind of interesting is we were talking a little bit about the way DAWs are made, right? So Thailand being a very like having to supply so many weapons for so many people, right? Because they were
just conscripting a bunch of farmers.
They just conscripted everybody because everybody learned the Thai arts as part of their basic education, right? Because it was such a proud source of knowledge to their people. So everybody learned, So what they would do is they just wheel out a bunch of weapons, and people would run, just pick them up and go, because everybody knows how to use those weapons. And Kali has that similarly, because they're like, it doesn't matter what you have in your hand, the forms are the same. Right. And in Krabi, that's absolutely the case as well.
Like I could take this little iron bottle opener and using
the
many of the same patterns, accomplish something.
What you need to, right? And Krabi is similar in that the form is what gives the weapon strikes power. So it's not that it's necessarily a particular type of weapon in your hand. It's that you know that type of weapon and how it's supposed to be used. Right. So,
it's sort of like the Musashi developed no particular fondness for a particular weapon.
Yes, it's very similar to that. Because you may come up to the like bucket of weapons as the army's running up, right? And look down, and the weapon you like isn't there because John ran away with it because he likes it too. You got to figure some shit out.
I was gonna say, I'm stabbing John in the back with whatever the fuck I've got, and then I'm taking my shit.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe that's not a good way to win a battle.
Well, I mean, that's friendly fire and all. But yeah, so a lot of the weapons, like the way that it was explained to me is that the reason the Da has so much handle is because they could limit the amount of steel that they would use for a weapon while still maintaining the length of the weapon.
Okay.
So a lot of the people that made more money, they would have longer steel blades. So the people that had like the most money would effectively have a saber. So Krabi Krabong actually does have saber as a weapon you can train with. Oh, cool. There is saber form. So, so like the Da, like I got a couple of Da that were made like based on like traditional measurements. Feels kind of dull. I used them, so now I look like they're all fucking serrated because you know how. Yeah. Because
it becomes a saw blade.
Yeah.
It's edge to edge blocking rather than edge to flat blocking, which would be other styles would think of, but Krabi don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah, because the weapons are
edge to edge. Yeah.
The weapons are disposable, like because they just wheel in a bucket and it's like, bah, 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 bah. Okay, that guy's dead. This is gone. Grab another thing. Go. Yeah. So, one of the things that became kind of part of that is that when you are when you're attacking the enemy, that's why it's so forward in modality. Like in Krabi Krabong, it's just forward a lot.
It's very linear. I was gonna say I call it linear and lateral, right? Versus triangular.
Yeah, there are triangular steps, but it's not practiced as part of the fundamental footwork all the time. I think that I would be disingenuous to say that there aren't some things that other styles do better, right? I think that as we sit here, the reason that some styles do things differently, that's why we want to learn more than one style.
Yeah, I mean, fill in the gap, every style has some sort of a hole.
Krabi does have knife. I don't like it at all.
I don't think I've ever seen it. I don't think I've ever seen it.
I've seen a couple of demonstrations, and I was like, I don't think that's for me.
That is a diplomatic way of putting that.
Yeah, I don't think that's for me. But I deeply love Krabi Krabong, and I was lucky enough to be there when they signed all the paperwork to bring the North American group together, and that was a really cool thing to watch a bunch of geeks sit around and fucking sign. They're gonna hear about this, and then Arlen's gonna beat my ass.
Yeah, he's not a person who I would want to entice to want to beat me up. I don't care if he's like 25 years older than me. I still don't I don't really want to.
There's a lot of rage in that, man.
I was gonna say, like, I kind of still want a piece of him because he's a legend, but like, I kind of don't want anything to do with it.
He's got that steely-eyed silver fox glare.
Yeah,
You know
well,
what I
I
mean?
watched him knock Renee out cold a few years ago. I was just like, fuck. He shows up, and I had never met him, and I was really excited, and I was like, oh man, Salty Dog is here. Like, that's a big deal. He's one of the, for those of you who don't know, the 3 founders of the Dog Brothers was Mark Denny, Crafty Dog, who was on my first show, Eric Naus, who's Top Dog, who maybe I can someday convince to come on here. And then the third guy was Salty Dog, Arlen Sanford, and Salty still gets out there, man. He's the sort of Krabi master of the 3 of them. And his style actually of the 3 of them, I have bits of each. Mark Denny does inform my double stick style a decent amount in some ways. Watching Top Dog certainly influences my, there's Rascal. Hi, Rascal. Rascal goes back on the floor. I forgot to close the door. And then Salty Dog's style, the quote unquote salty stance with the off lead, the Krabi stuff, the kicking, especially body kicks. When you're a right-handed stick fighter, generally your right side is forward, which means your left leg is back, which means if you've developed a decent left round kick to the body, you can make human pate inside of motherfuckers by kicking them in the liver. Yeah, and man, I like doing that. Man, I like doing that. A liver pate is liver. Pate is always liver, so it's human pate. Yeah. So, sorry, that's my food nerd.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. It's people pat. We make people pate inside of you with those round kicks on the left.
There's a special good feeling when you hit somebody in the liver.
When you hear them go, that like sound, and then like for a second they're like, oh, I think I might be good, and then they go, I'm not good.
Yeah. They act like they're in their Ace Ventura. 3 darts is too much.
yeah. Exactly.
But like,
and I say that as if I've never been on that end. And actually, I have been on that end, which is why I'm not doing it to others. I believe the term is hurt people. And man, I've been hurt by liver kicks. So I'm happy to give them to anybody who wants one.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like me with like the liver punch when I hit it just right. And it's like got that little give and that hollow feeling. And you're like, gotcha. And then you just step back, put your arms down and wait.
Yeah, just let them take a step forward. And then they go,
they're like, there's no blood there.
Oh man, the best one in MMA. Well, there were the 2. There was 2. There was recently. Well, I don't know how recent. A couple years ago, Jose Aldo dropped Jeremy Stevens with like a beautiful liver punch combination, and that crushed that fight. But it was, I want to say, Pat Smith or somebody like that, who had gotten the liver shot and didn't go down. And when the other guy came in, he kind of like managed to step out of the side and knock him out.
Yeah.
You remember that one? Like, you were like, oh yeah.
It almost looked like he like faked it almost.
It did, but he wasn't his face. He got it. He ate that shot like a sandwich. And like everything in me was like, kick him. Don't go closer. Oh, now you're fucked.
Yeah.
Because you never know, man. There's nothing more dangerous.
Yeah.
There's nothing more dangerous than a wounded animal. If he's still on his feet, he could have it, you know?
Absolutely.
Somebody who's hurt, like if you land a really good from this last gathering, there's a great sequence from My Fighting Pappy Dog where he lands probably the best shot that landed on me all weekend. It was a backhand to the inside of my, or it might even have been a forehand to the inside of my thigh, and it left a stick hickey from like my butt cheek to my knee. It was so long. Yeah. It was a long one, diagonal.
Yeah.
And if you immediately, as soon as it landed, I just went and just moved forward. Like I didn't give it time to hurt, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But with the liver, you can't do that.
No.
You get that hit, and you come forward, and you're like, oh, I'm getting you back. And then you go, oh my God, no, I'm not.
It almost makes it worse.
Please don't hit me.
Yeah.
I can't defend myself anymore. Yeah. Yeah. There's no chance to defend yourself. You go from this to right away. Immediate, just crumpling inwards. Oh yeah, that one's that's a special strike, the liver shot. But it's when you're dealing with full contact sports in any capacity, and you've got people taking these like hard hits and everything else, and you see guys that can just tough through stuff,
Yeah.
There's some stuff you can't tough through because it's a physiological thing.
Exactly.
It's like they say there's no tough guy to the choke, right?
Yes.
If someone puts a rear naked choke on you, yeah, you could be as tough as you want and not tap out, and you're gonna go to sleep. Like Holly Holm, punch in the air when Misha Tate was choking the life out of her. Like, that's a thing, and the ability and the knowledge of anatomy and anatomical targeting. And I'm not talking about this fucking pressure point.
Yeah, you're not talking about that Dimmock
gallbladder 13
no offense
shit
to Dimmock or anything like that, or any of those traditional.
No, I wouldn't want the death touch. But there are certain things, the nerves in your leg, the nerves in your jaw, that you'd slam that really hard. Like I've had, so like kind of mildly backtracking on the joking about pressure points, like, I've had people show me, this is this pressure point, this is that pressure point. The only thing is, like, you're not incapacitating me, like you're actually angering me. You're angering me a lot. This hurts, and it makes me want to hurt you back. I've yet to ever see a Kyusho master that I was like, well, what happens if I punch you though?
Yeah.
Actually, I take that. I take that back. The fake black belts guy is actually kind of legit. You know who I'm talking about? Bruce Iron Lion or whatever. The fake black belts. Yeah, fake black belts, I think, is the name of his Instagram. He's in with the McDojo Life guy, but he's actually a legit badass. He makes these like he has two kind of things he does. He makes these sort of skits where he I don't know. Maybe I'm slightly misrepresenting him, but the way I understand what's going on is he'll pretend he has this kind of character of the no touch knockout guy that he does. But he also is a bare knuckle fighter, an MMA fighter. He's like a 155er. So he's like a good sized, not a giant guy, but not a little guy.
Yeah.
But the other thing that this guy does that I actually I didn't understand at first, and I kind of thought it was supposed to be a joke, was so he'll post these people doing these no touch knockouts or whatever. And one of his hashtags is always suicide awareness. And I thought he was kind of taking a jab at them, but actually it's his dedication to suicide awareness and mental health awareness comes from the loss of his brother. And that's something that once you can kind of see past like the joking aspect of some of what he's doing is really important. And it's something that a lot of us within martial arts, especially in arts, like where this guy, he jokes about his pressure point stuff, but he's a full contact martial artist. He's a serious guy. And to be willing to talk about and bring up subjects like mental health is a huge thing. And there's other guys who have been doing that, using their platforms. I know Luis Pena, also known as Violent Bob Ross from the UFC, very recently was speaking out on his own issues. And that's stuff that, those of us that participate in this kind of thing, like you said, we probably all have a little bit of a screw loose, and there's probably something going on for most of us in different ways. And the ability to hear other people come out and say, like, it's okay to ask for help, or it's okay to, talk about your shit, is something that, as much as for me, coming to full contact martial arts and becoming a part of the Dog Brothers has been an exercise in manhood that I think a lot of young men in their late teens, early 20s, they don't get. It's also shown me that like manhood isn't only about that part. Some of it is about stepping up and allowing other men to retain that while still being vulnerable. And that's
Yeah.
something that, for me, when I hit that a moment where I needed that for myself, there were guys that were willing to do it. Gray Dog is a great example.
Mhm.
He's someone that, like, I owe a deep debt of gratitude to him for the things that he did for me. And it's something that I think that a lot of guys have a hard time. They have a hard time finding the strength to say they don't have the strength in that moment.
Yeah. Well,
No.
and you touched on a couple of good things there. Like, well, you touched on a lot of good stuff, but a couple of key things you said kind of stuck on my mind. The number one is the moment, right? And that's one of the things. Like, if I was to stand up in front of a room full of people that all had different problems, right? It didn't matter what your problem was. I would look at you and I would say, how many people here are thinking about the future and thinking about the past? And that is the source of your anxiety, your problems, your fears, your mental health nightmare, right? That is so, and that's kind of like one of the reasons that we gravitate toward fighting, I think, is because when we're fighting, there is no future, there is no past. You have to relax everything and you have to be fully in that moment.
You must.
And that's why, like, I tell people, they're like, well, what's it like to fight in a ring? And I tell them, I'm like, it is the loneliest but most peaceful place in the entire world. There's nothing but you and another person. And if you are worried about anything else, you're not going to win that fight.
No.
You're not going to win that fight.
No, nothing brings you to the here and now quite like something flying at your head.
Yeah, and sometimes, yeah, and that's it too. Like, sometimes, you're a little relaxed until you get the first fucking stick hickey, and then you're like, here we are.
It's on.
It's back, baby. But
it's
I
on
think
now.
I think that's part of it, is that we spend far too much time in the future and the past sometimes. Like, not to say we shouldn't learn from the past, and we shouldn't plan for the future. But I think that we have this incredible hubris about us as human beings, where we somehow believe that we can predict the infinite cosmos of what's about to come. Like, what kind of, you don't even know how if I stuck you in the woods, like, how long before you make me a fucking iPhone, and you're trying to tell me you can predict the future? Okay. Yeah, calm the fuck down. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so stop pretending like you do. You're just be like, that's stupid pride, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, clinging too forcefully onto the past, like that's how people become like, it's how people like get too attached to items, too attached to people. You're attached to something in the past. You're not attached to this. Like, if I sit here right now in this one moment, this one split second, like we get in the ring, right? Because the other people don't get that, and they need that for their own mental health. Like, that's why, like, meditation is pretty important, because it makes you focus on just
Present.
a moment,
Yep.
just a single moment, and you can see like how important a moment is.
Yeah.
Right? And then you go, out of my life, how many of these moments have I had where I'm just right here, right now? And there's a lot of people out there that can't even bring their self to do that. Mm-hmm. They can't sit alone in a room and say to themselves, I'm going to sit here until I tamed the animals going on inside me and experience what it's like to just experience one moment. There's a lot of people that won't put themselves through that because they're afraid of it. They're afraid of, like, the thoughts that go in their head, because they associate themselves to those thoughts. Those thoughts are me. They're not you. You're the observer of those thoughts. Your job as a human being is to move that mechanical mannequin that you call body and observe what happens. That's it. Keep the fucking thing moving, keep it working well. Those are all side effects. But at the primary level, the primary operating system of being a human being is to move my meat puppet and observe things. That's it. And that is the rule across the board. So if you're doing those two things, when you bring your life down to a moment, you realize that, a lot of these things, I'm using my imagination a lot to think of all these things that I'm perpetuating. Like, I'm thinking of a lot of steps here, right? Because if you think about it, you get something that bothers you that's coming up in 2 weeks, like you got bills due or something like that. You could think about those bills and encompass with your imagination all of the bad things that could occur and take up 40 hours out of your day thinking about that. Or you could think about the moment that you're in and put your focus there. What can I do right now? What can I do right now, this moment, to make myself feel better for the 2 weeks when it comes up? But people don't do that anymore because that's part of something that we get from fighting that sort of like everybody else doesn't experience unless something drastically happens or they're coached in that direction, is because we understand how valuable a single moment can be. And because of that, and because we know that 3 minutes can last forever, right? Or 3 minutes can go by in a flash. We understand that time is not linear like we want to think it is. And because of that, I think that we lose because we haven't put in ourselves through those like time and tests how valuable it is to just fucking sit there. That can in and of itself just be valuable. You should be out there doing other things with your life, but it's like the source of your anxiety 90% of your time. 90% of your anxiety is probably from your imagination. And you got to learn to quiet
probably
that
more than
down.
that.
Yeah. You got to learn to quiet that thing down. You got to learn to tame that animal. That's part of being an adult. That's part of being human. And we all learn that in Dog Brothers Beat the Crap Out of Cancer as martial artists, right? As competitors, we learn that from every time we compete, we get a little bit better at grasping onto that moment and not thinking into the future and thinking into the past. And that makes us better competitors. You know what I mean?
Damn, man. That was that was pretty deep. You know what? I think that might be a good spot to wrap it up. I've got a class to teach myself in a little bit, but
Nice,
man, thank you so much for coming on. Hey, why don't you tell people that might happen to be in Burlington, Vermont, where exactly they could find you guys?
Sure. So you can find us by Googling us, Green Mountain Martial Arts Collaborative, just in Google, or you can go to greenmountainmartialarts.com and see all of our list of classes, instructors, pricing. Like I said earlier to Matt, we have all of our classes are live streamed. All of our libraries are filling out currently with all the techniques that we know and love. So if you find yourself in Burlington, or if you don't find yourself in Burlington and you want to learn Krabi Krabong and you're not in that area, or you want to learn Muay Thai and there's nobody around, you can look us up and we will teach you.
To many people in this country, there's no Krabi Krabong near you, most likely. So these guys might be your guys.
Yeah, we're pretty much the only people in the Northeast right now, and in the Northeast, and I don't even know where the exact zone of where that is. Yeah, I know there's nobody in Mexico. I know there's nobody in like a lot of the parts of the world that teach it. Yeah. So, we want to. Everyone deserves to learn martial arts for the very reasons that we just talked about. And I think one of the most important things that we have to do is let go a little bit and be willing to teach everybody in whatever capacity we can. So that's why we started our business. And if you find yourself in Burlington, you're more than welcome to stop by.
Fuck yeah. That's why I love you guys. And that's why I had you on. Thank you again, brother. We'll, I'm signing off to the rest of you guys, and we'll catch you next week. Adios.